Suburban Sentinel here, along with Bella the camera cat. Just having my breakfast on the screen. Ring bells, get out of the way, baby. No, that's not actually my breakfast. This is yet another prepping video. And the purpose of this video is to advocate for stockpiling liquor as an SHTF or WROL item. Right off the bat, I want to disclose that I don't stockpile liquor for entertainment or recreational purposes. These are for legitimate prepping needs. Now, my wife and I are not big drinkers and we're not teetotalers, but in the event of an SHTF type scenario, I think it's important to keep your wits about you as much as possible. So then why stockpile liquor? Well, I have 3 reasons, and there may be more. Feel free to chime in if you can think of any. First and foremost on my list is that liquor can be used as a crude painkiller or sedative. If there's nothing else available and someone is injured and a couple of shots of vodka or whiskey or rum or whatever is the only thing available, it's better than nothing. Second reason to stock liquor is that in an SHTF situation, liquor will have value. There are a lot of alcoholics out there, a lot of people who just love to drink. I have no doubt that once the supply of booze at the local liquor stores runs out or is stolen or whatever, that stockpiled liquor will be easily traded or bartered for other items or services. Third reason, and I learned this one based on real-world experience, is that liquor can be used to subvert people of hostile or ill intent. And I'll tell you a little story. Many years ago, I went camping with 4 friends up in eastern Canada. We didn't plan on doing any drinking during this trip, but we were meeting another friend who was from Canada during the trip, and we had purchased 3 bottles of this fancy Kentucky bourbon to give him as a gift. So that was the only alcohol we had on us. We were in a pretty remote campground off season, and we were the only ones there. There was no one around for miles, and we had been there for a few days. And then one afternoon, 2 vans show up and start setting up at a campsite maybe 30 or 40 yards from us. And it was 2 vans full of college-age kids, late teens, early 20s. A while later, a bunch of these Canadian kids came over to our campsite, and we started making, small talk. And if any of you camp or hike, I'm sure you know that 99.99% of everybody who camps is pretty friendly and cordial and reasonable. So we're making the usual small talk. Where are you from? We're from the United States, etc., etc. Well, after a little while, they went back to their campsite and they started doing their thing, and they were drinking and having a good time, and that was fine with us. We're very much live and let live kind of people. And a few hours later, a couple of these kids come back and said, "Hey, can you give us some beer?" And we said, "No, we don't have any beer," which was absolutely true. All we had was the liquor we had planned on giving to someone else we were meeting later. So these few kids went back to their site, and now it was getting dark, and within a half an hour of that, all of these kids started getting pretty rowdy, yelling over at us, "America sucks, Maine sucks." I don't know what Maine had to do with it. We weren't from Maine, but I guess they assumed that everybody in eastern Canada who was an American was from Maine. They also were yelling Bruce Springsteen sucks, like he was a close personal friend of ours for some reason. I don't know. Of course, we weren't looking for any trouble, so we just decided to ignore it. And we did, and they kept yelling, and we didn't respond. And the next thing we know, we are being pelted with rocks. And that was not cool. So very quickly, we agreed that we should just get the hell out of there, pack up the site real quick and vamoose. Because it wasn't worth any aggravation. We're in a foreign country. We were outnumbered at least 3 or 4 to 1. We had no weapons. We're pretty vulnerable, and there was no one around. And if this is well before the days of cell phones, of course. So we started packing up our site in haste, and in response to them seeing us packing up, the rocks started getting bigger, and somebody moved one of their vans to block the road, and that was the only way out of this off-season campground. Now this was really getting serious. Our road access was blocked. The big rocks are still flying. They cracked the windshield of our truck. And again, we're outnumbered. We decided to call a truce and say, look, hold up. We're going to give you some liquor. We don't have any beer, but we have liquor. Very quickly, one of the guys in our little ragtag band there got the 3 bottles of bourbon, and he spiked it with some of his medication. I can't remember what kind of medication it was, but he definitely spiked all 3 bottles. And then I can't remember who it was. One of my other friends walked over there alone with the 3 bottles and gave it to these kids. We were hoping that them having our liquor would at least buy us some time to figure out what to do, because we were kind of in a spot. Nobody knew where we were, and there were no authorities around, and we were in kind of trouble. Anyway, the shouts and the rocks stopped, so we very quickly packed up the rest of our gear and hunkered down, talking about what to do and waiting to see what happened. Within 2, maybe 2.5 hours, their campsite went quiet. All you could hear was the crackling of their fire. Not a peep out of any of them. I volunteered to do the recon mission, so I, as quietly as I could, crept over there to find out what happened, and sure enough, they are all laying all over the picnic tables and the vans, passed out. So we decided we were going to get while the getting's good, and we very quietly crept over to the van that was blocking the road. Thank God the keys were in it, and pushed that out of the way pretty quietly. Then we flattened 2 tires on each of the vans, and we got the hell out of there. We were pretty lucky to have that liquor, and we got out of there with my buddy Dave just getting a minor cut, being grazed with a stone, and we had a couple of dents in the truck and a cracked windshield, but no real permanent damage. So that is my experience with the offensive use of liquor as a weapon. So in my opinion, for medicinal purposes, for trading, and for offensive use, liquor is a very good prepping item. Not that it should be a primary prepping item. Certainly I wouldn't buy liquor at the expense of not having bullets, beans, Band-Aids, and all the other stuff that preppers need. But if it's in the budget, I think it's a great thing to have. It's valuable, and demand is relatively inelastic. That is, even if liquor is in short supply and expensive, either in monetary terms or trading terms, people will still want it. At least right now, liquor is relatively inexpensive. I try to just stock up on it whenever I can. I don't want 1,000 bottles of liquor. But if I get one as a gift that my wife and I don't drink, we'll just keep it. You can see, I don't know if there's dust on the bottles of these different liquors on the screen here. Liquor has a good long shelf life, and it's pretty easy to store. It doesn't take up a lot of space, doesn't require any maintenance. Also, in my opinion, one of the best things about using liquor as a barter item is if you need something and are trading liquor for it, you're not disposing of a primary prepping item. In other words, you're not giving up a necessity for a different necessity. You're giving up a nice to have, almost a currency rather than a necessity. Of course, stockpiling liquor in the old homestead may not be the best idea if drunk-ass Uncle Joe lives with you or if you have teenage children, but that's a matter of sound judgment. So that's all I have to say about booze and prepping. This is the Suburban Sentinel. Thanks for watching. Please thumbs up and subscribe if you like what you see. Questions and enlightening comments are always welcome. Prep and don't drink too much, everybody.